Good evening and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we're on day 49 of 2025, and I'm continuing the story of the Yara. Now, that rather foolish young man who'd baited his hook with raw meat instead of a worm, who'd caught the baby Yara, who didn't throw it back in but placed it on his shoulders to take it back to his love in order for her to be impressed with his prowess, who ran away from the mother with its baby, even though he knew that it was not the smartest thing to do. And yes, the man that continued to run until he got to the village. He put everyone's life in danger because the mother Yara somehow began to make the water rise. The water of the river, it ran up and up the banks into the floodplain. All the people now began to scurry about because they could see that this water, if it continued at the rate of rising that it was, would soon envelop the little high spot where they had their huts and their fires going. The water did continue to rise. And that young man, he said, let's climb this tree, for certainly the water will not rise above the tree. And so he took his beloved and he brought her up against the tree and began to help her up into the branches. And then he was about to lift himself up into the branches when he couldn't. Something had changed. He could not grasp the tree. He looked down and saw that the water had risen to the base of the tree. The water was encircling his feet, but his feet were no longer the feet that he was used to seeing. They had turned into these yellow, scaly, webbed feet. He looked up, and what he saw in his beloved, I will tell you, changed everything for him. He reached up to her to take her in his arms, but his arms had turned to wings. And rather than having fingers, he had feathers. And reach up he did to her, who had taken on a black form herself. He turned frantically and looked off in the direction of the village and saw that every person whose feet had touched that water had now become black birds. I will tell you that he tried to speak, but no words would come out of his mouth that were anything like what he was used to hearing. It made no sense at all, but was more a strange crackling sound. Well, unlike any other bird, but unlike a person as well. And in this way, he communicated with his beloved and called out to the other people who cackled back to him in this same rather odd dialect. Now the waters eventually receded, and the mother Yara got her baby back. But those villagers, that young man and his beloved, they never received their form again. And to this day, in that land down under, there is a black swan that has a very unusual call. How it came into being, now we know.